Taring has already losses. You have to lower on.
Right.
10 seconds remaining.
They're fighting not to be last.
5 seconds remaining.
Yeah.
Radiant team back. Fire team back.
Welcome back, Dota 2 fans. Going to be our last game of the set today for SEA Regional Qualifiers TI6 Warrior Gaming Unity taking on Orange.Taring, and Orange has had a rough go thus far. Last game was a pretty quick affair up against Fnatic, and currently 0-4 in the group. Warriors Gaming, a much different story though thus far, right up at the top with 3 wins alongside TNC and Fnatic. So looking to round out their day on a positive note. Once again, MRP Blaze joining you guys for all the action and breakdown.
This should be a pretty interesting matchup, though. Of course, Taring are the underdog significantly here. They're already down 4 games in the group stage here, and it definitely could mean that they're not going to be able to advance. I mean, you only get 9 games total, as everything's best of 1, and you really have to make them count, because otherwise, you know, it's not just that you're missing out on the first place TI slot. If you don't get in the top 5, then you are actually just going to be going home outright and not moving forward to test your mettle against the higher tier. So they really do need a win, and Warriors Gaming would be a great team to take it off of. Already giving a lot of respect to Nana, banning out the Invoker and the Death Prophet. They can you're really showing that they respect the veteran player of the most, because Nana is actually the only one who has experience outside of this team. Like all 4 of the other ones are very, very new to it, have not been playing competitively longer than since late 2015.
Yeah.
Nana at least had one other team that went up and had a few good matches against like MVP Hot 6 and the like. So Nana has a little bit of experience. All the other ones are pretty much falling in line with him. So I guess you cut the legs underneath the general, and the troops will tumble as well. For now, they're opening up with the Disruptor, one of the favorites of the Asian region in general, whether China or SEA. And the response here, Enchantress and Slaughter, what do you think, man?
Enchantress is a bit of an interesting pick. It's a hero that very few teams still hold in high esteem, as there are some, perhaps not necessarily more impactful roamers, but more mobile roamers, more deceptive roamers, and the Earth Spirit and the Riki available in the pool this early on. But I definitely feel like it's a hero that can be extremely influential in the early game. The other thing I would mention as well is WGU, they're pretty much target banning Yamate here. I mean, Doom situationally is first phase worthy, but especially against Orange.Taring, they seem to favor this hero, whether in the 4 or the 3 position.
Yeah, so I am going to take a quick look that Enchantress is one of their top heroes here, and it's going to be Zaki that picks it up, and he's been able to get a really good win rate on it. Overall, it's 70%, and just in the last month, you're looking at closer to 75% because he's only played it 4 times. So 3-1, 2 of those in the qualifiers here, and that's just goes to speak that they're very confident in this pick to go for the phase 1 and to do it pretty blindly. I mean, it's not like Disruptor is giving you much information into what Taring's plan is. So go ahead, pick that up, and of course the great thing about Enchantress is you can use her in a lot of different ways. You used to see her get very involved in suppressing the offlane and the enemy safe laners by getting, let's say, Satyr creep from the hard camp to the secret shop. And that's a great way to start off a dual lane if you want to, Enchantress Slaughter. But of course, let's say you want to give Nana that point of leverage in the mid lane, then if you have a couple of great creeps to make those rotations, maybe a smoke or 2, and you are off to the races on that one as well. And finally, you can just kind of just farm things up. You don't necessarily need to zone and gank. That's going to be your 5 positions job, but if you want to just take creep camp after creep camp and find yourself in a little bit of a semi-core type role, then you're fully entitled to do that as this hero.
There's definitely a lot of merits in this game, and as you mentioned, just the comfort of the hero. Both the Warrior Gaming Unity heroes in their opening, certainly momentum based to some extent, and with a BAT nerf to Lifestealer in the last patch, Untouchable gets all the more better, even though he has the rage to kind of mitigate that passive's effects. But going forward, you're mentioning kind of the potential potential for the Enchantress to farm. Impetus, definitely a nice tool to deal with the Lifestealer Rage into the late game damage-wise. And amp damage, much the same there for WGU. So definitely a comfortable opening, definitely one that can deal with what Orange.Taring have to offer as well. They're going to ban out the Earth Spirit and take that away from Orange's side. The Terror Blade, of course, who combos up, not only combos up very well with Slardar, but deals with the Lifestealer very well, as we've seen as of recent times, is going to be removed from the pool by Orange.
Yeah, and you see that Enchantress wants to be comfortable in her jungle, as we are going to be seeing both the Earth Spirit and the Riki banned out. Bounty Hunter is still an option in the pool, but not one that I really expect to see from Taring. And it just means that, yeah, the Enchantress is going to be able to go from camp to camp unmolested and really be able to get off to the start she's looking for. But I'm really looking for the second phase into what we're going to be seeing from this mid lane. I feel like that matchup is going to be extremely important in this particular matchup between the teams, and whoever is able to kind of get good rune control, get good momentum, get the experience advantage, is going to be able to just in general control the game itself. So highly expect Nana to have the advantage, but it really comes down to the hero picks themselves. Yeah. And of course the supports roaming around it.
Yeah, it definitely does feel like they've slated a good early game here for their Enchanters, in the sense that Disruptors tends to be a bit of a stagnant hero in the early game, so definitely looking to exploit the mid lane with their Enchantress, in that they won't have too much potential to roam and turn things around pending the matchup. So we'll see what directions either of these teams go in. Either way, Oracle going to be removed from the pool by Orange. It's a hero that I would consider situational, but has come back into favor a little bit, at least very recently, in the SCA region in these qualifiers. TNC is a team that even to some extent considers it first phase worthy.
Yeah, I do feel like there's a lot of value in the hero, but unless you are actually going to be picking a hero that's directly countered by it, I don't actually think that it's very necessary to take it out at this stage here. I mean, yeah, there are a lot of strategies that the Oracle facilitates, and he is a great 5-position support that can just kind of do his own solo zoning, and the Enchantress doesn't really have to contest the lane, get involved in the lane. But oh man, I wish I talked faster. A classic of that variation was the Winter Wyvern. A couple patches back, when I was drafting for a team, it was just like, essentially, you have your greedy 4, you're like, okay, well, he wants to do his own thing, let's secure a safe lane. What do we pick to make sure that you can just keep zoning? And it's the Winter Wyvern. You just go for that Arctic Burn, and every freaking time, it's just too much damage for the offlaner to deal with. And the Darkseer does go back to the point I was making about the fact that the Oracle directly counters the hero.
Right.
And we got to see the fact that the Darkseer in the previous game started jungle pretty much exclusively because he was up against an Oracle. It's just not a lane that you can win. It's not a lane that you want to ever walk into. But the Oracle is off the table. The Darkseer is in. He is going to be dealing with the Winter Wyvern, but if he brings enough HP regen, I think he could still be okay.
Yeah, can't surge away, so kind of mitigate that harass a little bit from the Winter Wyvern. And definitely feels like once he gets a couple of levels up, kill potential is going to be a bit far and away for WGU. But as mentioned before, by Winter Wyvern should be able to more than likely keep the pressure at bay coming from this Darkseer towards the WGU safe lane, and allow the Enchantress to kind of have free reign and decision making over where she chooses to provide her services in that early game. WGU going to go for the Juggernaut here. Combos nicely with the Slardar. It's also a hero that at some point is going to have high armor in the game because of agility based builds, and doesn't necessarily need to man up versus the Lifestealer. Once he open wounds, can just kind of extricate himself from the fight with the Omni Slash.
It's going to be a really good push dynamic too. The Healing Ward as well as the Cold Embrace allow you to keep a creep pretty much sustained through an entire tower push. Right. And it's going to be very difficult for towers to be defended unless the Darkseer's got a couple Ion Shells up, and probably you're willing to rotate another hero on top of that. The one thing, of course, the Juggernaut doesn't really worry about Ion Shell at all, spinning on waves that are that much more difficult for him, and probably goes for the early Quelling Blade just to clear him out one way or another. So overall, I think the Jug's the right pick. It goes great in the mid to late game against the Lifestealer, while Lifestealer with an armlet of Meridian is still going to be able to have a lot of armor to boast. Yeah. Long term, he doesn't really build that much armor. AC armlet is generally the cap, and Juggernaut is still going to be building his damage output up. especially if he gets a lot of attack speed. I mean, you could see like the S and Y build up, or even like Moonshard. I think is a really good third item for the Jug. And I think that there's a lot of potential with the amp damage to bring this lifesteal down very quickly.
Yamate Murana. This is something we saw quite a bit from this squad. When they first formed. I haven't seen it nearly as much recently. I don't know though that into kind of the amp damage, into all the damage from the Juggernaut. I mean, sure, Leap is great to get away from either of those heroes, but it definitely does feel like eventually you will just be chased down. Wyvern there, Charm there, Starlar Sprint. So I don't know if it's really slated to be performing all that well in this game. What do you think the merits are of this pick? Is there any merit to kind of the Aghanims build-up that we've been seeing recently, or is this Mirana simply going to be in the support role?
If you get early farm, then the Aghanims is definitely going to be the way to go. I really like the idea of extended burst of magical damage against a Winter Wyvern. When you think about the Wyvern Cold Embrace being a great saving mechanic against physical damage, countered very heavily by spells. Like you see Sunstrike on top of it, double raise on top of it, that'll take a hero down very quickly. But Mirana has that offer, and not only the potential double Starfall, but of course that arrow. If you're saving somebody only for them to get arrowed, you've pretty much just sentenced them to death nevertheless. So it is going to be also great utility in the Moonlight Shadow, allowing map movement. One thing that we know pretty much at this point about Disruptor is once you start winning a fight, you're going to continue to win that fight because you're going to be able to pull people back with Glimpse. You're going to be able to follow through on that to get a couple extra kills. And the big deal there is Moonlight Shadow kind of setting up those favorable engagements where you get the surprise, where suddenly 3 heroes come out of Invis, you get 1 kill, you follow it up, and then you push a tower. I really do think that Mirana is going to be able to bring a lot to the table here, but only if Yamate gets off to a good start.
And the other thing about that is if they relegate her to the support role, something that I overlooked is that it's, despite them banning out the Earth Spirit and the Riki, it's almost a direct counter to the roaming Enchantress, as the throw out the Sacred Arrow, just kill off the creep right away. So a nice little caveat there of the Mirana pick. They will remove the Wind Ranger from the pool. Wind Ranger, a hero that tends to be a little bit situational, but when you have an amp damage on your side, gets a lot more scary. So Warrior Gaming Unity going to have that removed from their mid lane, and the Tusk will be banned out here. Naga Siren going to be the pick from Orange, so likely that does mean we are going to see the Mirana be in a support role, but I guess there's potential for a support Naga Siren here with the net.
Nah, I definitely think it's going to be Naga in the mid lane here. Going to be probably getting an early point of ensnare compared to most situations, just because it does set up the Disruptor and the Mirana very nicely. I'm curious actually if it's going to be a mid jug, but no, it is not. We're going to be seeing instead Warriors Gaming Unity take the Tinker to the mid lane and really just start rewriting the book, changing things a little bit as far as how it's going to play out in terms of the early fights. Because this hero, once he's got the ability with BOTs to continue to refill his mana pool and keep his cooldowns rolling, it's actually really hard to push into. The March of Machines breaking down the Naga illusions very quickly. You can't rat this guy, and you can't dodge this guy very easily either. There are some drawbacks in the pick. The biggest one I'll note is that you cannot stop a Naga Song self BOT. You don't have any spells that are near long enough range in order to prevent that until you have a BKB on a hero. So I think that if Rodgi does get that laning momentum, if he is able to get up to the stage where he can BOT Manta, there's really nothing for him to fear. He's going to be able to do a lot in terms of ratting things out, and it's going to be hard for WG.Unity to really punish him.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how Taring come out of the laning phase. It definitely feels like that if the Naga Siren gets a good start, we could be seeing a long-winded affair here with Tinker versus Naga up in this one. But either way, WG.Unity looking to continue to roll, and as you mentioned, Taring looking to get off to some sort of start in this group positively. This is going to be a pretty pivotal game for them going forward, as already almost half of their games losses at this point.
Yeah, I was kind of honestly hoping that we would see the SEA special of the Juggernaut in the mid. That would obviously have a lot of value, but all the same, it is going to be that Tinker that is able to do plenty here. Nana is a player that has worked around the Tinker quite a bit, and honestly, so has Rodgi, his opponent. Rodgi kind of has a pretty diverse hero pool, and one of those major players that he has picked up a couple of times recently is that Tinker.
Yeah, we'll see how Nana is able to, whether or not Nana goes for kind of the more farm-oriented build or actually puts an extra couple of points into that homing missile and looks to get active early. Definitely a lineup with the Enchantress and the Slardar that can look to push the tempo here against Taring. Already Dire going to get a ward down on the cliff as Ling did TP out. So Ling, not Yamate, of course, going to be picking up the support Mirana. In this case, and either way, we'll see how Rodgi fares in this mid lane. It does seem like a very hard lane. Ling probably going to babysit him for a little while with the Sacred Arrow against the Enchantress, but still, definitely seems like there's a certain bit of peril for this Naga Siren in the early game.
Well, I would have to say that if we're talking about momentum, WG.Unity should have that in a lot of ways. The Juggernaut will put pressure on the bottom lane very heavily, and the Darkseer will have trouble addressing it, to the point that I do believe that it is going to be very easy for the Tinker to find his early travels and his early momentum. And add that on with Zaki and his kind of signature pickup in this Enchantress. I feel like they're very comfortable with the early game.
The battle
See how either of these teams fare. Speaking of Jackie, Coddle Guy and Fogged have the secret game right now, if you guys want to check that out as well. Ling, hang around this mid lane area. There was a D ward here, likely by the Wyvern bottom lane, as well as by the Tinker up on the cliff. So, nice little bit of an influx of golden experience for the WG.Unity side early on. Sentry's going to pay for themselves.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting dynamic, though, watching Zaki and Ling go at it, because they're kind of both in this position, roaming supports or pseudo-junk supports. But you can see, like, Ling will immediately see that the Wild Wing is picked up, and he'll be like, okay, well, I'm going to try to pick it up. It's actually almost worth it for the Enchantress to block the arrow and to protect her creep while taking a little bit of damage in the process.
Only the 50 damage at level 1, not all that threatening, but wow, first blood going to be found bottom lane. And you mentioned the Arctic Burn being there before the Darkseer has the Surge up. Definitely susceptible to this combo and Blade Fury.
And it's a boot for Juggernaut. Like, I mean, this is something that you have to. Well, it's a Staff Shield Mango opener, and then he ends up picking up the boots shortly thereafter. But Yamate still doesn't have Surge. I mean, this is could. If the cooldown was shorter, if this was the old Blade Fury, that would be another dead Darkseer, I think.
Top lane, when with the absence of the Mirana, has been able to pressure the lane a little bit. He's also got the Wild Wing to just allow him to see us up in the wave and not feel all that threatened. So definitely a good start for the Slardar. Slardar going to be somewhat of a linchpin for this lineup into the mid game. If he's able to, get himself up in an early Blink Dagger, there's definitely kill potential on some of these squishies.
Yamate lucky to get level 2 there. Just one creep set him up, and he is going to be able to get himself away and keep distance here, but it's still not going to be an easy lane for him by any stretch, and that's without Zaki's contribution. He's still going to be staying focusing on the mid and the off lane, and it's going to be allowing the Slardar and the Tinker to get there early at progression.
Yeah, speaking of which, Nana already off to a good start in this mid lane, 10-3 relative to the 6-0 of his counterpart in the Naga Siren, and we will have a DC come out from Ajit, so hopefully he's able to remedy those issues. Looks like a Dota crash hopefully gets in here momentarily, but Jackie already has been able to at least garner the attention of this Mirana and ensure that Wen has had a good time in this offlane, sitting on level 3 in the Slardar relative to his counterpart in the Yamate Darkseer, who does already have, or has already taken a spill and does have that 0-1 record only at level 2.
So right now, I would say WG.Unity are pretty much off the races here in terms of momentum. There's not a single lane that they're really struggling in, but I really would like to see how well they can do in this off lane, because Wen has the potential to really bully his way into this one. The Disruptor is not the best solo support, and the big key thing is this Radiant Observer Ward in the center of the Dire jungle. They can see the Mirana's rotations, and as such, they know when it's free to gank. They know when it's free to put pressure up. So Enchantress Slardar just up against Lifestealer Disruptor on paper seems like a lane that they can really take control of, as long as they always keep tabs on where that Mirana is farming.
Also not all that threatened by Psionics with the open wounds once he gets up another point in this sprint, so definite potential for the Slardar to at least apply some pressure, maybe grab himself a kill on that Disruptor. Yamate against the Blade Fury. doesn't really have that same kind of potential, but it looks like we will have the reconnect of the Juggernaut here and get underway once again.
So, with the early mana expended and the Ajit not really wanting to pop a mango for a non-kill opportunity, there's going to be actually some lost CS for him at this moment. Like, he's 9-1 now, but you're going to see that he's not going to progress much further the next couple of creep waves, because Yamate still has plenty of mana to work with, and that's going to get him to his soul ring.
So we'll be able to freely kind of spam those out. We're going to make it difficult underneath the tower for this Juggernaut to last it. Meanwhile, Raji has had to back in Bottle Crow here mid lane without even a flying courier just yet. So a bit of a tough matchup on paper, and that certainly is demonstrated here mid lane. Nana pretty much completely dominating CS wise here without all that much attention from his Enchantress, who has been able to secure a good early game for Wen thus far. Ice to execute a pull here and is scouted by the wave, but they see the Mirana coming in as you touched upon before. She is going to get netted up. There's going to be a crush. No, she will leap just into the first level of leap, just makes it into the creep camp there. Will keep herself safe.
Good attempt in there. They're doing what they need to do. It's just actually show some muscle, show what they can accomplish, and keep the Mirana top. If Mirana's not ganking the Tinker, they're just winning by default. You see that gap continue to widen on the mid lane. 18-7 for Nana, and only 10-0 for Rodgi. He just really is at a loss in this lane.
Yeah, it definitely is a really rough beginning for him. And meanwhile, top lane, they are going to glimpse back Wen into the kinetic field, and Psionic gonna get crushed up here, but the leap forward, one more right click Ling will secure himself the first kill for Orange.Taring in this game. Meanwhile though, Yamate was forced back to base, wasn't even able to complete up the soul ring just yet, as he had to buy a TP to get back, but will grab it up now. Really desperately needs a couple more levels in the Anjo. Zaki though, net
combo onto Enchantress.
Yeah, they are gonna get the arrow 3+ seconds there, and as you mentioned, the early point Indian snare is gonna net another kill for Orange.Taring here. So a nice couple of happenstances for them in the last little bit. However, Nana will secure himself the rune because of that Rodgi rotation, which will force him to crow again. And
the body blocks bottom. Yamate's gonna run out of surge, and now is gonna have to try to go for the neutral deny. There's no way he makes the run for it. Doesn't go for the neutrals, just goes for a short walk to death. And that is gonna be I think he just goes jungle at this point. Like,
yeah,
you don't want your tower to be pushed in, but at the same time, what are you really getting done here in the bottom lane? It's just constant pressure, constant pain. Link should take a break from the jungle a little bit, and the Darkseer should make his way there.
It's the casual stroll in the park to death, but either way, Ice gonna get on some vision here in the top lane and try and keep back the pressure of this Enchantress. And the Slardar give their Lifestealer a little bit of vision, maybe indicating that they want to be doing a little bit more roaming to help out the Naga and ensure still that their Lifestealer feels fairly safe for Psionics. All things considered, those kills certainly nice for Taring, but it does feel like the Radiant overall, if you take a look at the CS, much happier with this early game.
Yeah, at least getting himself that one kill though. I mean, that's something to take to the bank here as he looks to progress towards at least some form of items. That point in snare is pretty valuable. I still love the 203 build for general Naga farming, but when you have a hero like Mirana, you really just gotta go for the ensnare. So far it seems to have paid off. I think that he is going to be able to probably get 1 or 2 more kills just based off of that skill alone, but we're going to be seeing the torment of all mids, of old and new. It's the Wild Wing Ripper coming in with the tornado, and unless the Mirana can find it and get an arrow on it, it's just going to be a nuisance where he can't really stay in the lane.
When rotating in mid lane is going to force the leap out from the Mirana. Is a bit short of the Slithering Crush mana, but will secure the Arcane Rune for the Tinker. One of the better heroes in the game to have this, and meanwhile Yamate bottom lane is going to be able to apply a little bit of pressure to the Juggernaut now that the Wyvern is off the lane, but does have that healing ward, so should be just fine to continue farming here. Has picked up the Omni Slash as well. Nana farming very well. Has the Soul Ring ferried out, so can just constantly spam out this wave, walk back to the jungle perhaps, and stack up some camps in the meantime. 4 levels in the March, going to be able to accelerate his farm considerably hereafter.
Yeah, I've actually never played Tinker with an Arcane Rune, but it sounds like it actually creates a lot of value where you can start actually spamming out your abilities a little bit more. Now, obviously not the cooldown, it's all about the mana, but now he's in some trouble here. Gets glimpsed back in. This is a high value kill, a level 7 hero, split among 3, with Disruptor claiming the last hit.
Yeah, definitely nice for Ice to get as well towards perhaps a set of arcane boots here, and as you mentioned, a pretty big bounty of experience and gold, about 600 apiece net, gonna go the way of the Dire side. So a really nice kill for them to find to stymie the timing of his boots of travel. Amp damage is gonna come out here soon for WG.Unity. Don't be all that surprised to look.
Say, will be spent,
Yeah.
spun on, will be brought down. That is a long surge away, but just a lingering splitter blast and one single crazy long hit from the Arctic Burn, and that does Darkseer will be taken down. So they have the means of pursuit, the phase boots there, and they are able to bring him down again. I gotta say, the bottom lane is forfeit unless you're rotating heroes to help him.
Yeah.
Just stop going down bottom, man. Yamate, this isn't working.
It's just a masochist
Did
at
it
this
work
point.
the last 3 times? No, stop, please.
Torturing himself. They will rotate down to Ice, however, in this lane, but really, can they stymie this push coming out from the Radiant side? It seems like the answer may just be a resounding no. They do get the starter, though, in the meantime, in the top lane, and it's a pretty convenient time to pick him up as well. He's about to grab that amp damage here shortly, and doesn't have all that much farm, so will buy out the Iron Talon in the meantime to try and get himself towards that Blink Dagger.
Yeah, so essentially, like, you know that you have to get an intermediate item. You'd love to just rush out the Blink Dagger, but as soon as you take that first death, you realize, I'm not going to have the gold for it just to rush it out. I need to kind of get something that speeds up the farming process a little bit. So the Iron Talon works in that capacity. You sometimes see like Tranquil Boots work out pretty well just for the mobility factor. He's not going to make that deviation. He's just going to get up the jungle every once in a while, like Darkseer should.
Like the Darkseer should.
So far they keep the tower alive, but I don't think that's going to last much longer. If WG.Unity want this tower, they're going to have this tower, and that's just the cold hard fact.
Well, the healing ward going to expire for now, but they will chip it down to about a quarter mark here. So as you mentioned, seems only a matter of time before they're able to grab that up. Nana in the meantime has been farming up the jungle a little bit, stacking for himself as well, sitting on 1200 gold, so still about 800 away from those travels, but it will be a reasonable timing from all things considered with that death in the mid lane. Armlet is going to be completed up by the Lycia. Pretty standard fare here for him around the 9 mark, so gonna ramp up both his tankiness and his kill potential going forward, but it just doesn't seem like they have all that much to help out the Lifestealer. There's no natural vessel for him to get into the fight. Mirana leap into infest is not exactly a combination that you would see all that often, so he's gonna probably play a little bit more of the farm game than we're used to with Lifestealers as of recent times.
Yeah, I think the most likely initiation actually comes from the Moonlight Shadow. The ability to just come out of Invis with the Infest is a lot of potential. And I would say that Winter Wyvern and Enchantress are less likely than most supports to be spamming at Sentries. They really do want to build up early items, Ether Lens, and obviously with the Enchantress you can go a lot of ways, usually the Dragon Lance. So I definitely think that invisibility is going to be the key, but we're actually going for a smoke play, and he infests before the leap, so a bit of miscommunication, but still going to net this kill here.
Yeah, Nana is a big one to grab as well. So we'll be able to net themselves a gank on that Tinker.
That was close. And that could have been, if there were a few unlucky spawns there at the tip of the March of Machines, Link could have just died trying to TP away, but he does sneak away, and we'll make it back with a nice bounty of 1300 gold in bank. So we've seen some like Arcane 4-staff support run. We've seen Arcane Mechanism. Obviously, you talked about the Aghanim Scepter. That's more of a core item, but still viable from a support perspective. But we're going to be actually seeing him pick up that point booster. So yeah, he will actually be focusing on the Ags.
Yeah, going forward, Wen does have about half the gold needed to pick up that Blink Dagger, and Nana has been stymied in the way of his item progression with a couple of deaths here, but will get the Boots of Travel here 11 and a half minutes in. So the tool's starting to come out for WG.Unity. Omni Slash yet to be used from Ajit, but he'll show himself in mid lane after bringing down the tower bottom lane and look to continue to apply pressure here. Taring, not all that great at taking 5-man engagements just yet as a squad. Infest is going to come up off cooldown though relatively shortly, and they do have the Moonlight Shadow on top of that, as you mentioned. Top lane, Winter Blast going to be thrown up, but seems like for now just going to be in order to defend this tower. Nana going to join up in the mid lane, and Ajit going to retreat to the jungle to farm on the Juggernaut.
Alrighty, it's going to be really well timed Soul Ring, Bottle, no Tally, and Boots of Travel coming out from the Tinker here. Nana at 11 minutes has all of those items to boast, and all he needs now is really a Blink Dagger, and he's going to be very aggressive. I mean, you have to be a little bit concerned about things like the kinetic field for vision, the Songless Siren, as well as the arrow for potential control when you go for those Blink arch plays, but in general, I think that he'll be able to be very active here, especially when he's got enemies waiting to essentially use his aggressive BOT as bait.
Yeah, he'll have a little bit of time before the Naga is able to get up her Radiance, and then likely the Boots of Travel thereafter to continue to shove these waves out and gain a semblance of map control for his side before it can be responded to. Naga, though, after a pretty dismal start, does have quite a ways there. Static Storm is going to connect onto 2 top lane in response to the Winter's Curse. Ajit is in trouble. They will get the Cold Embrace off, however, to keep him alive. The Slardar, however, not going to share the same fate. Will end up dropping here. Moonlight Shadow going to expire in just a second. Ice, he's going to show himself in the face of Nana, but keeping out low on mana. It looks like it'll just be the one clean kill for Taring, and a nice response to the initiation top lane opened up by that Wyvern.
Yeah, I like the idea there because I knew that the Sacred Arrow was on cooldown. It kind of whiffed by them, and obviously you have some potential to bring down that Lifestealer by shading the Crush as the Winter's Curse ends, but unfortunately, it just the Disruptor was there ready and waiting to make his own response, and that means that WG.Unity will be empty-handed this time around. So the current kill score is 3-6. WG.Unity not really building a lot of tempo, but at the same time, they're kind of happy to farm up the next couple items. When there's like 3 slots for the Juggernaut and the Tinker, that's when they really start making things happen. For now, they're still just kind of waiting for the Slardar Blink.
Yeah, Zaki has been quietly kind of playing the farm game as well, as you mentioned, being a possible route for him. So he is sitting on level 7, which is pretty much at parity with the other supports in the game, but does have that 1300 gold. So not all that far off of Dragonlance if he wants it to come up pretty soon here. When picking up the Bounty Rune is about 600 gold off of his Blink Dagger, and Glimpse back mid lane. Zaki could be in a little trouble, but the arrow actually gonna whiff here. And having the Untouchable there in the value point in the Untouchable, is going to be a bit of a tough kill. When going to jump forward, Static Storm completely going to whiff though. And since they had already used the Glimpse mid lane, it looks like the Slardar will be able to back themselves out. And now with that off the table, WG.Unity will group up at least as 3 in this mid lane and look perhaps to pressure this tower. They haven't brought the Juggernaut in just yet though, so it's just going to be another 60 or so seconds with the Static Storm off the field.
Yeah, a Well-Timed Mirror Image does touch out the Crush there, but pretty much none of the other spells were able to connect, so it's going to be just a kind of extended clash that creates space for the Chorus to continue farming. Tinker already up 1700 gold past the Boots of Travel, and of course the Juggernaut very, very close to that battlefield, at which point they're able to push out the lane so quickly that even a relatively early Radiance isn't going to be doing that much in terms of lane control against WG.
When very desperately trying to find the farm for his Blink Dagger, but no one showing on the map at the current moment. I had to play a bit safe into the trees. One more last hit here will bring him very close to being able to pick it up, and then they can really start to push the tempo with the Battle Fury to be completed soon. The level 11, more importantly, up on the Juggernaut, and this Blink Dagger grabbed up by the Slardar.
So at this point, it's going to be initiation versus counter initiation to an extent here. So it's going to be when to pick up that first Blink Dagger of the game, and it is going to be him to look to make an early initiation play out. But let's say the Darkseer's there, ready and waiting with the mechanism, the wall, and the level 2 back, not too shabby. And I do think that there's some really good potential for them to actually turn a fight. We saw the power of the vacuum plus the disruptor in the previous game, and add in a couple of long-range spells from the run, and I really do think they could actually take the upper hand. It won't always be a clean exchange. The mecha is not enough to really withstand all the damage from WG, but I could see them actually taking a 3-for-1 under the right conditions.
Mid lane, Ice will be able to grab the deny under the face of Zaki there, and Nana is going to have his creep brought down by Raji. Bottom lane, Relic is going to be here in about 200 gold, so not the ideal kind of 13-14 minute Relic that we're used to seeing from Nagas with free farm, but all things considered in that mid lane, Rodgi going to come out with a pretty good clip on picking that up. Ling is a little bit far forward mid lane, but it looks like the Unity have better ideas as they're looking to bring down the Lifestealer top lane. Blink Dagger freshly picked up by Wen. Amp damage, Omni Slash available to them as well. They'll drop down a deep ward trying to find this Lifestealer, but he's playing very safe at the moment. We'll see if patience pays off for WG.
To find a very good read there and dodge out what otherwise would be a critical gank. I mean, that kind of an opportunity, turning the smoke into a set of kills like that would be allowing WG.Unity to really start taking towers more than just the safe ones. The bottom and the mid ones are really easy, but now they're going to be pressuring with the Enchantress, the Juggernaut up top, and I don't think that's going to go unrequited. It very well could be an approach here. Yep, the Moonlight Shadow, and as long as they're in range for Ensnare, they can stop a spin TP. Unfortunately, they're just a little bit too far off of that one, and it looks like everybody will be getting out scot-free.
Yeah, nice extraction top lane. Oh, Zaki, though. He'll be the last one, and Echo Saber plus the Rage. Lifestealer deals with that untouchable passive pretty darn easily, so Psyonix will grab up his second kill of the game. 2-0-3 on the Lifestealer, involved for the 5 of 7 of the Orange.Taring kills thus far. So Taring definitely weathering the storm here thus far. Good read, as we mentioned, by the Lifestealer, and this Omni Slash yet to be used in the game for Oddjit. Goes for the kind of farming-oriented build in the Battle Fury, but definitely a very potent ultimate gone unused here early on. And Blink Dagger, not sure if they caught a glimpse of it, him TPing behind the trees, but they should know that it's, if not up, near up at this point in the game.
Yeah. A little interested to see whether or not Juggernaut goes for the Manta or the SMY. I personally favor SMY, but there is definitely merit to being able to dodge out the Ensnare or arrows with the illusion play, so I think that active can be very potent. And also you get more of that split push I was talking about, the ability to really continuously push out the lanes the opposite direction, make sure that the Naga doesn't have automatic default control of the map just for Radiance alone.
Top lane. Crush stop. Wendell taking a bit too much damage to that Iron Shell with the sprint active. So without support inbound, he's going to have to back himself out of that top lane. And things will stagnate for the next little bit as Ling is going to go in towards the Aghanims build we talked about before and is about to pick it up there with that large camp.
Very nicely done. So he's going to be actually just going for a 1-point in arrow build, the value point to kill off a bunch of creeps. Hasn't really gotten too many big arrows out on heroes, but the big deal here now is that he could just burst them down with a double star storm. So only need to be level 7 for the maximum value. Interestingly enough, it is going to be allowing him to put a lot of hurt into some of these lower HP heroes.
Right.
The mechanism usage is going to have to be really on point, I would say, from Zaki.
Radiant's fully up as well here for the Naga Siren, so gonna accelerate her farm pretty considerably. I mean, she's not a hero that you're gonna be able to contribute to fights, at least in any kind of enduring way, but can kind of throw those illusions in there. Miss chance is gonna be nice as well versus the amp damage and the Slardar, as well as Jugger right clicks. So could be a bit of a value item, but just more so gonna be able to help push the lanes out and facilitate smoke ganks like the ones that Taring are attempting now bottom lane.
I actually really like to see a Veil of Discord come out from Ling next, having the Radiance as well as... Oh, actually going to be finding this Winter Wyvern, and he's going to be caught inside that kinetic field, so it looks like he still will go down. Ling will be dropping really low in the process, but they're not able to finish him off because the invisibility is going to be speeding him away here as Nana just narrowly misses a kill opportunity.
Yeah, unfortunately just a fraction of a second too late there, and the Wyvern just barely short of the damage to help the missiles finish him off. Juggernaut, though, undealt with kind of up till this point in the game, and is essentially free farming here. 175 CS, 20 minutes in. So definitely a force to be reckoned with going forward, but it does seem like Warriors Gaming, just by virtue of having the Tinker, have been unable to kind of coordinate full-scale 5-on-5 engagements thus far. Really, the one attempt they made was toward that top lane where the Lifestealer was able to dodge.
So we're going to be seeing this Bloodstone build come out from the Tinker. It's actually a pretty interesting one because it does create a lot of potential for the Tinker to be able to build up those charges and to really just have so much potential mana, as well as a potentially quick respawn with that global presence. But at the same time, you really don't have the kill power that you would have just going for a Dagon. So you're going to have to really rely on the Jug, the Slardar, as well as your basic spell set to really get those kills to start fueling your Bloodstone. And I actually, generally speaking, don't prefer this build unless you're up against a Doom, where the quick respawn can set you up for a huge fight and a huge push because of the fact that Doom is on such a long cooldown. In this case, you don't really have big cooldowns to fight up against. The Wall of Replica is 100 seconds. It's substantial, but I don't feel like the shorter respawn time is going to be the biggest of factors here.
Bloodstone will be completed up. Blink Dagger, an interesting pickup here. Definitely not all that uncommon as a third item for the Juggernaut, and can help him to follow up the Slardar. So once you get that amp off right into the Omni Slash, can likely kill off very important, influential targets like the Lifestealer, which should bode well for them gaining the numbers advantage thereafter in the fight. But we'll see how it ends up panning out for him. It definitely is a bit of an unforgiving, a bit of a feast or famine item pickup on Odjit. Bottom lane, the Fireball will be thrown out from the Ancient Black Drake, picked up by the Lifestealer here. Just gonna kind of help him farm as well as just shove the lanes in while Naga deals with the other side of the map. Ling fishing for arrows in the trees, trying to find the Tinker, will be unsuccessful in doing so for the time being.
Yeah, and you can just kind of see the overall game plan for Taring really has a lot to do with this AoE magical damage output and continuously pushing out lanes. I mean, you got the double Starstorm, you've got right now, at least, recently, the Ancient Black Dragon with the Fireball, and Ion Shells and Radiance. Like, all of this is designed to keep the waves pushed out. And the advantage of this is not just gradual tower damage, it's also the map vision factor, where it's not easy for WG to get on the dire side of the map and place some wards down. It's not easy for them to read your movements because there's so much time you spend in the dark in your jungle, where they just really can't decide whether you're playing it slow and you're just farming, or you're actually going for a smoke like this.
Just off the mark was Yamate, looking for the Tinker, of course, but would have been close to finding the Wyvern. Either way, smoke gank attempt is going to be thwarted for now from Taring, but they are dealing well across the map with the lanes, as you mentioned. Zaki actually opting for the mech here on the Enchantress, and with the Blink Dagger on the Juggernaut. Definitely look for WG.Unity perhaps to assemble as a 5-man unit, at least towards the Roche, if not to find a team fight here. But it definitely does seem like they're kind of itemizing for the now across the board.
So they're going to be able to most likely take a big engagement here. However, going to the Roche pit here is Ice. Look, it's just going to be a freebie for him. Scouts out a little bit too far. They thought maybe there was a possibility that with the benefit of that amp damage, they could have been going for Roche. I mean, it is a level 11 Slardar after all. But end of the day, it's just a mistake coming out from the Disruptor that doesn't cost them too much. A 4th kill on the board, while numerically significant, doesn't really change the state of the game.
Right. They'll push forward into this tier 2 here. Now I'm going to drop down the march and dissuade Taring from coming into mounted defense. So Juggernaut on the front lines. It should be a relatively easy tower push with the Disruptor. Static Storm off the board.
Now, I gotta actually mention the real value here of the Kitty. The healing ward for the Juggernaut is really good at sustaining through all the stage doing magic damage, because there's nobody to really send in a hit.
Jump forward from the Slardar is actually going to connect only onto one on the Crush, and they'll sleep up. Echo Saber will be there with the Rage through the sleep to burst him down, and there's no response, of course, because of that. Now a glimpse back onto Zaki. He's going to be netted up, tries to TP out, but it's an optimistic one. Not bad. And they will be able to grab up 3 kills in this bottom lane, getting the Wyvern as well in addition. But a jump forward, Omni Slash onto 2. He's going to bring down one. Psionics, though, he's armlet toggling through it, will be just fine. However, there could be a blink forward from the Tinker to finish him off here. Tinker going to think better, think better of it. He'll get netted up and brought down. All that burst from the Mirana, paying dividends here. 4 heroes on the sidelines, only a Disruptor for it. Nice armlet toggle by Psionics as well on the LS, and things looking really good at this point in the game for Taring.
This shows one of the natural strengths of the Mirana, or sorry, the Naga Siren in terms of offensive song play. You've seen it coupled with a lot of different heroes. Enigma's one of them with the Black Hole. The Disruptor, a pretty significant classic with the Kinetic Static, and they attempted to do it in this fight with the Mirana's Arrow as well, but the timing was slightly off there. So at least they have the idea in mind. It definitely creates some real pick-off potential. I mean, if you can get that on the Juggernaut right before he spins, essentially have the Arrow's bottle right on top of him when he becomes vulnerable once more, you have yourself a free kill on a carry, and that's a huge deal. So overall, I really like the initiative Taring are taking, but you have to remember how long of a cooldown that is. At level 14, it's still a 2-minute cooldown, and they have to kind of... They can't play fast and safe with it. They have to really make sure that they're using it when it's the most valuable.
Yeah, talking about the merits of the Bloodstone build before, and first that's going to be a costly one here for the Tinker, now only sitting on the 8 charges. Blink Dagger are going to be picked up by the Lifestealer as well. This can allow him to kind of outskirt the fights a little bit, and as you mentioned, with the Song of the Siren, he can rage from the periphery of it and jump in and get some free damage on one of these targets for WG.Unity. It's a very interesting item pickup, all things considered, though, on the hero.
I really don't know if I like it that much unless the life still has an Abyssal Blade. Blink Abyssal on almost any hero is arguably extremely powerful, and I think that on the Lifestealer, who likes to kind of have that physical control and be able to stay on his target, for example, even if the Juggernaut is spinning, and being able to lock down on top of him, I think there's a lot of potential value. But going with the Echo Saber, you get a slow effect, but I don't know. It's good. It might not be the optimal pickup. We're excited to see them just make the jump here into the trees, and Tinker will be rotted down. I'm not even sure if you needed a Blink Lifestealer there, but it certainly is one of the tools they have to support with. I think that Mirana could have accomplished it, is what I'm saying. But all the same, the Lifestealer gets himself a pretty penny from that nice little assist.
Yeah, picks up 411 gold for the Disruptor as well. Nicely scouted out there with the kinetic field, and before the second rearm came out, able to punish the Tinker. Odjet still farming very well on the Juggernaut, but he's gone for that Blink Dagger, and they still haven't really put it to much use here. So I do feel like Taring are pretty darn content with the state of the game. The Naga is starting to get bigger and bigger. Boots of Travel got the gem up as well to deward safely with her illusions going forward, and can just continue to farm away with this Radiance. Yamate Blink Greaves up as well, so the 5-man potential from Taring, although on paper perhaps not as strong. WG.Unity's is there. Zaki up safely in the bottom lane. Ling's got a Blink Dagger of his own as well on the Mirana, the Aghanim Scepter, of course. Just allowing you to clear a wave pretty quickly at this point in the game is always going to be nice as a farming tool as well as a team fight tool.
So some people will scoff at this quite significantly, especially a lot of people who get the wrong idea from pubs, but I actually really love the fact that the Winter Wyvern is going for a 30-minute Hand of Midas. They know this game is going to go long, and because of the way Tinker and Battle Fury Juggernaut play out, the push and pull of the creep wave is often going to put a lot of the farm out of reach for Othu on the Winter Wyvern. By getting this Hand of Midas, he knows that he's going to get long-term value, he's going to get level 16, and he's going to get some real items out of it. So it turns the few creeps that the Winter Wyvern does get his hands on into a lot more reliable value to this potential item pickup. And yes, it is a late time, but it's not always about the benchmark on the clock. It's about how long-term the game is going to play out with it.
Bottom lane, Taring going to convene as a full unit here, minus the Lifestealer, and at least shoving the bottom lane, get a little bit of gradual damage done on this tower. Wen has gone for the Midas as well on the Slardar after the Blink Dagger, so definitely expecting to play for the long haul here is the Radiant side. Juggernaut, he's got the Battle Fury, so despite picking up the Blink Dagger, does have the farming tool. Will opt for the Manta as well, that you were mentioning as a possible route for him earlier. Psionic's going to be able to blink into the trees and get out mid lane. Nana, he's going to be caught once again here.
Brutal.
Blink Dagger from Yamate as well as the Blink Dagger from Ling facilitating that grab, and Nana just not having the game you would expect him to thus far on the Tinker. 0-5-1, and that is going to open the door for the Roche.
And now you're actually seeing the real drawback of the Bloodstone. I mean, this guy has 3 charges left on the item. It has almost no value compared to what it had when it started. And this is going to be a real drawback for him. Yeah, he can suicide in a fight if he wants to, and he gets still a pretty good base heal. I think that's probably the strongest non-scaling component of a no-charge Bloodstone. But no matter the case, I do think that he would have preferred to be in a more offensive position now. He's actually going to be going Blink Bloodstone into Scythe of Ice. It could go Lincoln's too, and arguably that would stop quite a few good spells like Glimpse. But obviously, Scythe X is going to be a really powerful tool for just locking down the Nog and preventing the Song, and for finding kill opportunities. Speaking of Songs, up top lane.
And Nana in a little bit of trouble, will be able to blink out, but he's pursued almost immediately thereafter. Winter's Curse, though, with Psionics dealing a lot of damage, bringing Raji low. The Omni Slash on top will kill off the Naga Siren. Rage is going to be able to dodge the homing missile, but the Lifestealer does end up going down, and he's now got Rage on cooldown as he respawns, so Crush is pretty reliable here. They get the Static Storm down, though, and it stops the Crush from coming out. When in a lot of trouble here, Glimpse back as well is going to be there onto Ajit, and it will keep the Lifestealer safe to back off, so blinking away right out of the song there for Nana, actually keeping him safe, and they turn it pretty considerably overall in the top lane. They get the Aegis and 2 kills.
Yeah, the Slaughter ends up dying within the wall of Replica, so I've got to say that that most likely was a mistake. Being the last one to go down there and inside a wall, it seems like he was fighting Illusion or caught in a really weird position. But nevertheless, Slaughter was actually one of the big playmakers in that fight, getting a really solid crush off that set up Winter's Curse, and that Winter's Curse ends up leading to the Naga kill, which just kind of chains cause and effect. They're also very fortunate to have earlier picked up the Geometry Sight that Ling was carrying, and the Wyvern was able to allow that Juggernaut to stay on target despite the Moonlight Shadow. Yeah,
so perhaps even larger than originally considered with the gem coming out of that. Gem, obviously a very nice tool for the Naga Siren to have in general, to be able to establish some map control. Speaking of said Naga Siren, she does have her Manta, and now the Reaver on top as well, up against the Tinker. All that raw HP going to be nice, but still definitely a killable target with the amp damage and the Omni Slash as we saw in the last fight. So Roggi perhaps need to be a little bit more diligent about keeping himself back and just throwing illusion spam into the fights thereafter.
X up for Tinker though, that's pretty huge. Nana now able to chain disable one target, and it's going to be forcing some Lotus Orbs for sure. I think that actually has to be the next item pick up for 2 members of Taring. Could be like the Dark Seer and the Mirana, I think would be quite appropriate. And then the Disruptor can focus on his own initiation progression, Blink Daggers or Ether, or maybe even that Aghanim's.
Yeah, really wise already. The Voidstone is up onto Yamate, so there's potential that he goes that route, expecting or anticipating the Tinker build. Blink Dagger are going to be picked up on the Disruptor. This is not something we see all that often, but against the Tinker,
it's one of my favorites actually. It gives you so many ways to get that kinetic static off. The static storm cast range, if you just highlight over it, it's not that substantial, and so a lot of Disruptor's early game play involves positioning, but once you have that Blink Dagger, you really don't have to worry about it as much, and you're always able to follow up on the song that Naga sets up for you.
Yeah, a bit luxury there. I feel like in general we see kind of Glimmer Capes, Aether Lenses, things that are more team-oriented, but this is definitely going to be really nice up against the Tinker.
It's because the Tinker doesn't go BKB.
Right.
There's no way the Tinker has the slots to afford it, and Rearm does not refresh BKB, so it's not a strong pickup on Nana, which means as long as you can always just blink and storm the Tinker, you're in a good spot for a fight.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Walking around bottom lane, not going to find all that much at this point. Is building in towards that BKB and not all that far off of it. Roche not going to be up for the next little while, but already some dewarding being committed by Ling, who's picked himself up another gem for their side here. Jit, he's finished up the Scotty in the meantime, 3,800 gold as well onto the Juggernaut. Anything that stands out for you here as far as his item progression goes?
I mentioned earlier in the draft, I really like Moonshard on the hero. I think that it enhances the Omni Slash's potential so much because you generate that many more attacks in between your slashes, which obviously every Omni Slash has been high impact. So adding in attack speed from something like Butterfly, something like Moonshard, I think would be quite valuable. So definitely not something to underrate, but if you look at the fact that he's already gone Manta Scotty, he does really seem to want to be rounding out his build with this kind of full stat line. So I think while my Moonshard is my personal favorite here in terms of just min-maxing, when you go to lobby and just test out really how much you can do with a single Omni Slash or in prolonged engagements, Moonshard might be more valuable there. But Butterfly has so many merits this game. Having the evasion versus the lifestealer is the most obvious one, but being able to flutter in engagements where movement and positioning is so very important I gotta say that does bring a lot,
Yeah.
and Butterfly was recently buffed. So overall, with the Manta Scotty already picked up, I would definitely have to say that Butterfly is going to be his next pickup, and BOT is from there.
All right, so kind of just waiting for some sort of big engagement to happen. It feels like Taring are less likely to put the onus on themselves to try and find one of those 5-man full skirmishes.
They're just going to keep looking for Tinker pickoffs like they have. Probably putting up a couple more Tinker wards. We've seen a couple of them already on cliffs and such. But I think that's going to be really the most important thing. Playing the Vigi game, punishing the Tinker for pushing out too far. I mean, already they have found Nana 5 times with Bloodstone down to 6. They just want to keep them at that tier, and if they can build up a couple Lotus Orbs in the meantime, that'll put them in a better position for the next stage. Generally speaking, you look at a 2 Midas lineup with a number of carries and semi-carries, and you gotta say, we're a little bit scared of how the late game plays out, but I just don't think they can rush into it. They still need a little bit more, the Lotus Orbs being, I think, the key part for their team.
Into the mid lane they'll go. Jet sitting on 4k gold at this point, bringing around the ice armor creep as well. Naga will continue to shove these waves, and the Winter Wyvern gonna deal with top by herself. She is holding a gem, so needs to be careful not to overstay her welcome, and they are making movements towards the top lane, but it looks like the purpose for now for the Wyvern was perhaps to cover the Tinker, but he will decide to go bottom, and Wyvern gonna extract herself from this lane. 2k gold up onto Ling as well, so he can build into something a little bit team oriented here. Maybe goes for that kind of semi-carry build as well, but definitely a lot of options here. Lotus Orb, one you mentioned, perhaps a Ghost Scepter as well into the E-Blade. That's something we see on these Maranas, especially with the Aghanims build up, but we'll see what direction she ends up going in. Roche is going to be essentially a near min spawn here, just about 1 minute past the minimum time. Cane Rune going to be picked up by the Juggernaut, so Omni Slash at a premium to be used here, and the Naga Illusions will fan out and look to continue to cut the wave. So the movement to some extent going to be a little bit obvious from the Radiant side, as the mid lane pushing in unattended to, the bottom lane not pushing in as heavily, but Tinker now will show his face in the mid lane, and it doesn't look like for now, under the cover of smoke, Warriors Gaming going to find anything.
At this point in time, we're just kind of moseying right along to the farming stage until Roshan comes out in a couple, probably 2 to 5 minutes here. I would say that they're just going to continue to focus on farming while they can. I mean, yeah, there has been some buff movement. Obviously, they've expended that a couple times, and the starter, it looks like he's been caught out. Yeah, that vacuum is going to be putting him in a precarious position, and though he'll try to sprint himself out, it is going to be a full 5-man pursuit that will bring him down. So overall, a good kill that might actually get them enough for a tier 2, unless the Marksman Machine's action is just completely on point.
Yeah, and unfortunately no Roche available for them to be able to take, but tier 2 is definitely a target that's a consideration for them at this point. Psionics behind the tower there, looking to jump forward. He's going to find Nana here with the Echo Saber and the vacuum back to get the Tinker once again, who doesn't TP out under the trees. I'm like, perhaps a bit of a misstep there from Nana, and they will definitely secure the tier 2, and perhaps a poke at the high ground here to at least try and force a buyback out from the Tinker, which he does not have, unbeknownst to Taring at this point.
Yeah, that's a huge misstep to not go for the teleport in the tree line there, or maybe afraid of getting caught by random kinetic fields, but in the end just kind of walks into the enemy, and they're going to be able to put some good damage to the tier 3. I don't think they're going to take it necessarily, but I mean, just getting a lot of free damage out of the backdoor protection, I guess, will kick back in and negate it all but 15. So not getting much in terms of the high ground, but at least getting the free tier 2, the free Tinker pick, and just kind of getting full control of the map.
Basher going to be picked up. You talked about the Blink Abyssal being strong here, and Psionic's not all that far off from that, so he can serve as an anti-Tinker hero on top of the Disruptor and the Marana that they already have in their arsenal. And in the meantime, 6k gold accrued on this Naga Siren, so definitely can look to ramp up her potential with a next item in this one. And the Lotus Orb You called it. Going to be picked up here by the Mirana. Put her into fighting shape as the Naga finishes up her Octarine.
So going to be getting that shorter cooldown on the mirror image, Manta, and Song. Allows you to keep pretty much illusions up on the map 100% of the time. And it's actually going to be the Hex coming up from Yamate. I noticed he was making a lot more gold than you need for a Lotus Orb, so I thought that that might be what he looked for. As long as they have one Lotus Orb, I'm okay with this. But let's say the Mirana was like 1200 gold behind her current farm level. I would be really, really upset that we see a Hex on Yamate, because they definitely need a Lotus Orb to address the Tinker. But if you think about it, I think the Darkseid is probably the most likely chain Hex target of WG.Unity, and specifically Nana. So having it on something that's not the Darkseid probably makes the most sense.
Yeah, that Hex going to be supplemented to the Blink on the Darkseer as well. So there's definitely very much potential for them to catch any hero who is shown to be potentially alone on WG.Unity's side. And with the Lifestealer, they definitely do have burst potential. With the Disruptor, they can also kind of cover that kill from any counter initiation. So really the fight potential that we said as a 5-man wasn't necessarily all put together yet for Taring 8 or so minutes ago is definitely looking to assemble nicely here.
I still gotta say that 2 Lotus Orbs would be insanely powerful. I mean, you are up against both the Winter Wyvern with the Curse,
Omni Slash as well,
the Slaughter Amp, the Juggernaut Omni Slash, just being able to dispel Amp as well as Hex for the Tinker. I mean, all of this really means a lot. So it is one of the best games for it, but I'm assuming the Darkseer will get there eventually. But for right now, they want to take a fight, and they need good initiation. They don't want to just burn the vacuum and the this kinetic static on a single target when they can just open up with a Hex. So I think that's their overall game plan, is because the Lifestealer doesn't have an Abyssal Blade, and they don't want to burn ultimates for a single kill. They're going to use the Hex to make it happen.
Oh, Moonlight Shadow comes out. Does WG.Unity have vision of them? It is daytime, but they found him, and they're going to jump up. The Cold Embrace keeps him safe for just a moment. The Omni Slash going to come out, however, from the Juggernaut. Now the Song, it's going to reset everything.
But
Nana.
Follow-up. They're just going to have to nuke him down, and even then, it's not going to be a clear fight.
Vacuum Wall is going to connect onto 2. Wen does catch a crush now. Psionics in trouble. They get a bash onto the Lifestealer. Lotus Orb not enough to keep him alive. Raji in a bit of trouble here as well. Is going to get hexed up. Nicely found out by the Tinker. Brought down 3 on the sidelines for a Winter Wyvern. WG.Unity just so nicely positioned there, and you know the Dire side, they did have a scan available for that smoke movement, but unable to use it there, and the smoke pop definitely looked to confuse them as Yamate blinked over to the west, and that fight goes very well for WG.Unity.
Insanely good target party, taking down the Disruptor. This is a huge linchpin in the Taring lineup. I mean, yeah, they got the Vac wall, but they just didn't have enough to really take down Unity. They open up on the Wyvern, he gets his Embrace off, and survives a little bit longer. Nice 2-man crush, and then that big Omni focusing hard on the Disruptor. A couple of crits, and he goes down. And this is just not the position you can be in. When you're the Disruptor, being in the thick of things, being in the center of things, when you have that blink, you want to stay in the periphery and jump in when you see that opportunity. So very unfortunate that he gets caught like that, especially since they were the ones with that smoke flame. They saw their smoke break, and they start firing things to see things on the high ground. End of the day, they lose the Disruptor. The Song does not enable a reset of the fight that would favor them. They don't disengage, they try to fight it, and in doing so lose so much. I mean, they lose Roche, Sauter getting the Aegis, they lose multiple heroes, and they lose a big chunk of the map in terms of control. Yeah, this was a very bad fight to take, but I can completely sympathize with their desire to try to make it happen. I mean, this game has gone 43 minutes with no major clashes since the one that we saw on bottom lane. And with that in mind, they have to be kind of itching to really make the use of their full potential. And they tried, they failed, and they're going to have to take even more time to make up for it.
Yeah, and they really ramped up in their potential with the items that they just picked up before the smoke. So it's certainly understandable that they make that movement, but just essentially superior positioning for Warriors Gaming.Unity, and good focus, as you mentioned, gonna win them that engagement. And you know, tier 2, a little bit of map control, as well as that Aegis now in hand. But Taring, they will not be deterred. They're going to group up again towards the mid lane. Jump forward. Static Storm vacuum is going to connect onto multiple heroes. They'll bring down the Juggernaut in the duration of it. Slardar getting low as well. The net is going to catch Nana. It's going to force him to BKB out. Crush will keep them at bay for the time being. Splinter Blast is going to come through. Does quite a bit of damage with bot back Juggernaut. They get off the Omni Slash. Rogji, he's in trouble. He is going to be glimpsed back and brought down. Ice is going to be able to make it out. It's only the one kill though for this Juggernaut. With the buyback, Aegis not expended just yet onto Wen. Maybe they think about pushing up into this mid lane and at least forcing the buyback from the Naga.
Though. They're going to even BOT to the center, but it does get arrowed by the Mirana, so they can't follow up with a Blink Hex. Oh, that would have been amazing if they could just shift the BOT like that, and would have been very fortunate that they had that enchanted centaur still in play. But now, like you're saying, they need more than just a Naga pickoff. If they're going to buy back on the Juggernaut, they need to breach the high ground, and they're going hard on the tier 3s here.
All right, no Static Storm available for Taring's side, but they will buy back the Naga, and it looks like they'll be content with their spoils here. Arrow a little bit short to catch Nana, who looks to deal with the top lane. So a little bit of a back and forth there from either side, and Ajit essentially capped out, can replace the Blink at some point, can go for a Moon Shard as well. Will be fairly happy having caused the Naga to buy back there in that mid lane.
The big thing is time for the Naga. If they can pick her off again, then they are in a great position to just take the game outright, because other than the Disruptor Darkseer combo, there really isn't enough damage to defend. So now Rodkey becomes priority number 1. Zaki will be picked off, unfortunately. He actually has the Hurricane Pike, but it's not going to be doing enough for him to escape. So, yeah, I do feel like the real value of it is not taxing the Naga Siren. Sure, she still has a Ring of Aquila in her inventory, but slowing down her next and potentially final item in terms of her 6 slots is not really what WG.Unity need to do to win this game. It's finding a way to get this Naga down and down for good.
BKB up on the Tinker as well.
Okay, so he does go for it. This is a very rare pickup, but it does have some value.
Yeah, it paid dividends in the last fight, apparently, and definitely against a Disruptor who has been kind of the bane of his existence thus far is a fairly valuable pickup. So they are going to look to deal with their lanes, and likely, as you mentioned, the onus is going to be on the Radiant side here to try and make something happen during this couple of minutes where the Naga buyback is not available.
End of the day, I do favor WG.Unity significantly in the next 2 fights. I mean, they've got these nearly fresh BKBs, a 10-second on Juggernaut, a 9-second on the Tinker, and I think the Slaughter's used it twice, so 8, counting down nicely there. But it allows them to fight into the Disruptor, the Darkseer, really well, and even the Song of the Siren. I mean, they can go right on it, and though the song will come out, it won't change the fact that they're able to make the initiation they want.
At top lane, they are going to find the Hex in with the Crush as well. Boots of Travel 2 going to facilitate that for the Tinker. Yamate looks like he'll be able to make it out, but a Lifestealer, a very significant target to bring down in the jungle here. He does have buyback available, but really nothing at all expended by the Radiant lineup for that kill.
Yes, so Rodkey is going to buy out here for the Butterfly. No reason not to, as the surplus would go to waste with the buyback currently on cooldown. But I gotta say, just watch the Naga Siren's movements in the next couple of fights, because with the buyback still on cooldown, he has to play very carefully. And obviously, with the Lifestealer currently down, WG have all the impetus to just strike first and go for the high ground. It's going to be a buyback for the Lifestealer, I'm almost sure. But will they get the song to set up his return?
Jumping up on the high ground, healing ward at the ready is Ajit. And they actually do end up cleaning up the creep wave here, though. Oda will stall out for the next little bit. Aegis is going to be...
They try to glimpse him back in right at that moment. He's taking a lot of damage right now. BKB is still on cooldown. He will go down! Oh, the perfect timing. Glimpsing back on that Aegis timer. And now they move out. One song to cancel 2 TPs all at once right here. But he's holding it. He won't song in time. And it is going to be everybody sneaking away. They get the Hex out onto the Enchantress. It is going to be at least Zaki going down. And good timing turns into not only a life steal that doesn't have to buy back, but 2 kills in return, but I really do wish that Rodney had Song there because that could have meant so much more.
Yeah, and with the Octarine core, really, what are you expecting to Song there? Just a 45-second cooldown, but either way, really good diligence from them and discipline in terms of the timing of the Aegis to expire and able to bring down that starter essentially for free and stymie any hopes of WG.Unity to push top lane. They are going to look to press forward with the raged up Lifestealer. Song does catch out Nana, but they need vision of him.
Kinetic. That's a kill.
They are going to find Nana. They hex him up immediately. Yamate going to jump forward, bring down the trees with the vacuum, and they will get the Tinker. He's going to buy back immediately here. Looks to fight here top lane. Winter's Curse is going to catch quite a few. Rocky, though, with the Butterfly, he's very tanky at this point. Omni Slash coming through, though. It's going to bounce over to the right. Perhaps with a bit of misfortune, the Surge is there, but it's likely a dead Naga Siren when all is said and done. He's going to try and TP out one right. Oh, the Hex is there from Nana. Barely to get him at the end. And that is a no buyback Naga Siren on the sidelines for the next 2 minutes, still on the cooldown. So definitely potential here for them to poke at high ground, but Nana, he gets a blink right into a Lifestealer's hands here. One more right click, the Tinker is down. He bought back for that fight top lane. WG.Unity still have their starter and their Juggernaut available. They are going to try and fight mid lane. 65 seconds though, no Omni Slash. Lifestealer can certainly stand and fight here, especially if they get the Disruptor up and fighting. Got the Blink Dagger at the ready, the Ghost Scepter there as well, but the melee rack in a bit of trouble in mid lane. Yamate gonna jump forward, they get the bash up. Cold Embrace will keep him safe. Force Staff back, but he's still into the Connect field here. He will be able to Manta out of it. And now they'll surge forward the Lifestealer. He's taking a lot of damage though. Crush comes through. Still, there's no follow-up just yet. Lotus Orb going to be able to purge that. He walks back. Now the open wounds is there. Ajit, though, he's going to pop the BKB and man up. Infest will keep him safe for just a bare moment. And now he'll go down. Buyback is available. He will expend it here. Taring going to look to fight 20 seconds until their Naga Siren is back. Blink forward from Yamate. He's going to find the Hex and the vacuum back onto Ajit. But do they have the Lifestealer inbound just yet? Blink into in 3 seconds. They will be able to try and man up against this Juggernaut. The Butterfly, though, doing so much work. Omni Slash should be up soon. It's 10 seconds. He'll kill off the Lifestealer. Now the Yamate going to be bashed up, brought down the Dark Surge. He's died back as well. Mirana unhealthy to fight. Mid lane of Rax essentially forfeit here. Arrow is going to whip in the mid lane. Naga is up, does have the Song to try and delay things out, but to what ends, really? 2 heroes, 80+ seconds on the sidelines. Nana is now back in the fight. He'll get the Hex off onto Orange. Song will be used purely defensively.
Cooldown, no, they're not going to be able to get it in time. The starter will get hit, but it's not going to be enough for him to be burst down. They'll disengage, and they will be losing the Disruptor in the process. Mid-racks are going down. The Wyvern surging forward. The starter doesn't even care. If he can do anything to set up just one more kill, they can have this game in the bag. Tinker continuing to spam out tons of March, missiles, and lasers, and they're going to be able to bring down another. Mirana goes for the buyback, but it's just going to be eaten by the Juggernaut. Spin, no! He dodges away and nearly sends it toward Winter Wyvern, but now all at low HP with no healing ward to speak of. It looks like they're going to have to disengage, but no, that Juggernaut gets burst down, and it's going to be a 2-minute death timer that he has to buy back into. It's all in, boys. This is BOTs to the front line, and this is do or die for WG.Unity going all in here in the dire base.
They are going to be able to right-click into the tier 4s again. The Song of the Siren is going to be up, but it's overlapping with the arrow. They will not be able to land it, and they really don't seem to have the firepower to fight up against Ajit. They'll get the Winter's Curse off onto Ling to delay things out, and they're right-clicking into the throne here with the Manta Illusions. They get the Hex off onto Rocky. He's bashed up on the Naga Siren. He will be hexed once again by Nana. Chain Hex brought down. 7 seconds until the Lifestealer is back, however. Triple kill for Ling, as he'll be able to bring down the Tinker and the starter. Now Ajit, he's going to be hexed up. He has a flutter in 2 seconds, but he gets the net off. That's a dieback.
Taring just turned this around. It's 130 seconds on the Juggernaut. The Naga comes back. They get the wall on the Jug, whose build is perfect for the enemy illusion. And suddenly they just took this. Taring are going to walk right down the middle lane, and there's not a damn thing that Warriors Gaming can do about it. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me right now?
That was, I mean, you've got to say, at some point it's a bit sloppy coming out from WG.Unity. The starter Smart are just kind of feeding away as soon as they gain an advantage in that mid lane, rather than backing out and resetting. The Juggernaut going all in with the buyback after
Just
dying.
Go for the tier 4s. The second this tower hits the ground, don't bother with the barracks. Go for the tier 4s. Go for the throne. Go for the win. I think they've got this.
This is going to be Orange.Taring's first win of the group stage. Tinker is up in 5 seconds. Can kind of spam them out. They're not the fastest pushing lineup, but there's no Juggernaut for 75. Where is the damage really going to come from in the grand scheme of the fight? And with the rage up now, Psionic's going to right-click into the throne. They've got the illusions there. Orange.Taring, WarriorsGaming.Unity are undefeated thus far in the group stage. They get the Lifestealer, though. He's dead for 86 seconds. Nana gets a chain hex off onto Rodney. They don't really have any response to this, but the illusions, they're still right-clicking away at the throne. Now they'll get the hex on the Tinker. The game will end as the throne will drop. Taring in the mid lane with the discipline and the resolve not to give up in dire straits. WG.Unity have to be kicking themselves. What
just
play?
Went way too aggressive. I called it all in because that's exactly what it was when the Juggernaut goes down to a Starstorm and then says, okay, I'm going back in with my only life remaining in this game. They put themselves in a position to lose, and that's exactly what happened. Orange were able to exploit the fact that this Juggernaut had a hyper stats build with a couple of great walls.